Out of the mist comes one of the most remarkable voices in music history. A 19-year-old who wrote her own #1 hit and danced like a ghost on stage until tragedy struck and she disappeared from touring forever. A woman who watched one of her songs explode into new life 37 years after its release, thanks to a Netflix show. This is the story of Kate Bush, a teenage prodigy who quietly reshaped modern music. Stick around, you're going to fall in love with her all over again. By the time she'd reached the age where most of us were figuring out our first job, Kate Bush had already written over 200 songs. Born in 1958 in Kent, England, she grew up in a wildly creative family. Piano in the house, poetry everywhere, and parents who encouraged her to follow her muse. At just 13, she was composing full pieces on piano. At 15, she recorded her first demo tape. A family friend slipped that tape to Pink Floyd guitarist David Gilmour. He was intrigued by this strange voice, drove to her parents' house, listened for hours, and was blown away. Gilmour personally financed a professional demo, introducing her to EMI, and, at just 16, Kate had a record deal. Her 1978 debut, The Kick Inside, exploded with Wuthering Heights, written in one night after a viewing of a BBC adaptation of the Bronte novel. She sang as Cathy's ghost calling across the moors. EMI wanted a different lead single. Kate refused and got her way. The song hit #1 in the UK for 4 weeks, the first self-written chart topper by a female artist in Britain. She was 19. Her follow-up, Lionheart, came just months later and showed even more theatrical flair. But it was clear Kate wasn't content to repeat the formula. She wanted to push further, into production, into deeper themes, into full artistic control. Here's what blows my mind. Punk was exploding, disco was everywhere, and then this 19-year-old shows up in a flowing dress, a 4-octave voice singing about 19th century ghosts, and zero compromise. She didn't follow trends, she created her own lane. Fresh off the success of those first 2 albums, Kate wanted more than just studio recordings. In 1979, she mounted the Tour of Life, 28 dates across Europe. It wasn't a concert, it was theater. Dance, mime, elaborate costumes, and the stage turned into a living storybook. Critics called it revolutionary. But on April 2nd, 1979, after a warm-up show in Poole, tragedy struck. Her 21-year-old lighting director, Bill Duffield, fell 17 feet through an unmarked gap in the stage and died a week later. The entire tour was devastated. Kate dedicated the song Blow Away for Bill on her next album to him. Music is all that he's got in his life. She finished the tour, but something broke. The combination of exhaustion, grief, and her own intense creative standards meant she never toured again. The stage lights went dark, forever. Instead, she poured everything into the studio. Her 1980 album Never Forever became her first UK #1 album, and her first real step into self-production. And it's absolutely my favorite of her records. 2 standout tracks show just how fearless she had become. Breathing, the lead single, is told from the perspective of a fetus terrified by nuclear fallout. Inspired by a documentary on the effects of nuclear war and the tone of Pink Floyd's The Wall, the lyrics paint a haunting picture. Plutonium twinkling in the lungs, the unborn child absorbing nicotine from the mother's smoking, pleading to stay safe inside the womb. The music video has Kate curled inside a giant plastic bubble, literally portraying the fetus. It's a devastating and fantastic song, and firmly in the running for my absolute favorite Kate Bush track. Anyone who grew up during the Cold War understands it deeply. Ships of plutonium are twinkling in every Then there's Army Dreamers, a heartbreaking anti-war ballad from the viewpoint of a mother grieving her son, killed not in glorious battle, but in a routine military accident. She wrestles with guilt. What could he do? Should have been a rock star, but he didn't have the money for a guitar. The video shows Kate in camouflage, holding a child, blinking in sync with the sound of gun cocks. A mother's quiet devastation over wasted young lives and the futility of war.
For a man in uniform to carry home my little soldier. Oh, he's sitting in his home, he waits his home. What a waste, army dreamers.
Imagine pouring your soul into the most ambitious show of your life, only to lose a close collaborator right at the start. For Kate, the cost of live performance became too high. She poured herself into the studio instead, and that decision changed music history. Fast forward to 1985. Kate releases her masterpiece, Hounds of Love. Side 2, The Ninth Wave, is cinematic storytelling at its finest. But it's the lead single, Running Up That Hill, A Deal with God, that becomes her signature. It's about empathy, the desperate wish to swap places with someone you love, to feel what they feel, even if it means making a deal with God. Kate's haunting vocals and that iconic Fairlight CMI drum loop felt futuristic. Originally a modest hit, the song exploded in 2022 when Stranger Things Season 4 placed it at the emotional center of Max's storyline. It re-entered charts worldwide, hit the US top 10 for the first time 37 years after its release, and racked up over 1 billion streams. Just think about that. A song written when a graybeard like me was a boy became a Gen Z anthem 4 decades later. That's not nostalgia, that's timeless power. And right alongside it on the same album sits Cloudbusting, inspired by Peter Reich's memoir, A Book of Dreams. It's told from the adult son's point of view, remembering his father, the eccentric psychiatrist Wilhelm Reich, and their magical days on the family farm, cloudbusting, using a homemade machine to make it rain. The song captures the boy's helplessness when his father is arrested and imprisoned. Kate directed the stunning music video herself. Donald Sutherland plays the father, and Kate plays young Peter in a ragamuffin wig. It's one of the most emotionally powerful videos of the 1980s. Kate didn't just make hits, she pioneered. One of the very first artists to embrace the Fairlight CMI sampler as a real compositional tool, she built her own home studio in a barn and produced herself when almost no women did. Her fearless blend of literature, dance, technology, and raw emotion opened doors for everyone who followed. Bjork called her one of the biggest pioneering producers. Tori Amos built her entire piano vocal style in conversation with Kate's work. Florence Welch has said Kate showed her it was okay to be theatrical and raw at the same time. From Regina Spektor to Fiona Apple, from Coldplay to Rosalia, you can hear Kate's DNA in artists who refuse to be boxed in. Even in 1986, while promoting her greatest hits album, The Whole Story, Kate gave us Experiment 4, a brand new track she wrote and directed the video for. It's a chilling sci-fi story about a secret military experiment to create a sound that could kill from a distance. The lyrics warn, music made for pleasure, music made to thrill, turned into a weapon. In the horror film style video, Kate appears as both an orderly and the terrifying sound creature itself, a siren that becomes a banshee. The cast includes Don French, Hugh Laurie, and Gary Oldman. It's pure Kate, ambitious, cinematic, and unafraid to scare you. Kate Bush never chased trends. Instead, she followed her own strange dreams, and in so doing, she gave permission to other artists who followed to do the same. So whether you discovered her through Stranger Things or that spine-chilling first listen to Wuthering Heights like I did, Kate Bush proves one thing: true originality never fades. Smash that like button if Kate Bush is in your rotation, and subscribe for more stories about artists who truly changed the game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
It's in the trees. It's coming.
The horns